Okay, so tonight's on burnout. And it's, burnout is when your output exceeds your input. Or when you're in mental and physical overdraft. So let's start with the scripture. Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So Jesus did not design us to reflect him, to live our lives running on empty, right? Running on our own strength. He wired us to live, work and serve from a place of dependence on him, being filled up in him, overflowing out of love, enthusiasm, empowerment, rest and freedom. So his yoke, which is our trust in him, because we walk with him, indeed it is easy, and his burden, which is the weight of what we carry, is actually light. Do we rely on him in all our ways? And do we apply this truth to every area of our lives? That's a real challenge, hey? Have you been there? You just keep going and going, and you never noticed how empty and how exhausted you got spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally, until you got so sick and you went to see a doctor, and then they say, you've burned out. By that stage, you're at that point of total collapse, and it's a long road to recovery. And that's sad, because that could have been avoidable, right? So burnout, unfortunately, is all too common these days. You yourself may know, or someone around you that's gone through burnout. So let's look at what it is, the signs of it, what causes burnout, and how you can recover from it. So what is burnout? Burnout is characterized by a combination of three main symptoms. Number one, mental and physical exhaustion. That's self-explanatory. Cynicism. That's when you're very negative and you're just apathetic, like I don't care about anything. And thirdly, ineffectiveness, meaning feelings of powerlessness and inadequacy. So that is a very stressful state to be in, and meaning your outward demands are outstripping your inner ability to cope, and that leaves you more and more depleted of energy and enthusiasm. Yeah, so research shows that burnout leaves a mark on the body and the brain. It overwhelms its normal functioning. It impacts your ability to cope with stress, emotional regulation, and your social interactions. And burnout left unnoticed can lead to mental breakdowns and higher risks of heart disease and sickness. And that's why you just can't keep going and think, oh, just take a little break here and I'll be all right. You actually need to make intentional mental and practical changes to fully recover. So let's look at some signs of maybe you're at risk of burnout. So I've got these 8 signs here. So, burnout just doesn't happen suddenly. Your mind and body slowly depletes itself through a long period of time. And so here are 8 signs to notice, and don't ignore these signs. Number 1, a constant weariness that sleep doesn't fix, because it's an emotional weariness, not a physical tiredness. So sleep won't make it better. Number 2, you struggle to make decisions, to focus, or to concentrate. Number 3, you constantly avoid difficult people or situations, and you're hiding behind your device. Oh, I've got these notes, by the way. Yes, you do have notes. Yes. Because your brain doesn't have the energy to deal with that stuff. Number 4, you dread or complain about the tasks, the job, the ministry you're doing. Just dread it. Number 5, you constantly feel swamped and stressed by your responsibilities. Number 6, you're not getting much sleep or eating regularly. Number 7, you feel tired and negative about everyone and everything in general. And number 8, you might get sick more often because your immune system is diminished. Yeah, so watch out for those signs. So what causes burnout? Is it the length or difficulty of the relationship? Is it the difficulty of the task, the job or responsibilities? Nope, that doesn't cause burnout. Rather, burnout is a symptom caused by underlying fear, producing overwhelming stress and anxiety. So a common mindset behind burnout is this: I have more obligation than ownership. Meaning you are doing more things that drain you rather than that which energizes you. So you have more obligation than ownership about someone or something, but you still keep going despite this. You ignore how you're feeling, you just push on, you end up overextending yourself, overworking and overfunctioning. And so soon your output exceeds your input. And you end up doing more that drains you than that which energizes you. Basically, obligation is where you find yourself doing something where you feel you should, you must, or you have to. And your heart isn't fully in it, therefore you have little enthusiasm or ownership. You're merely saying yes because it's easier to say than no. Often there are other pressures, like financial or physical, that drives obligation as well. Primarily, fear is the main driver of obligation. Fear of our unbearable feelings, fear of lack, fear of rejection, fear of disappointment. Of course, in life, there are always things we must do because it's the right thing to do, and it's a part of life where some of it is fun and it's enjoyable, and some of it is just mundane. In fact, sometimes our needs do override our wants for a season, but if this underlying pressure keeps going for a long time, this can lead to burnout. So now on the other hand, ownership, that's where your enthusiasm and energy levels are high because your values and your priorities match what you do and what you wholeheartedly choose to put your efforts into. It's enjoyable and it's producing the fruits you want to see. So ownership is driven by love, trust, or faith. So essentially, it comes down to how we see ourselves. This is the whole root of it. Comes down to how we see ourselves and how we respond to others, and whether we have the skills also to assert ourselves, to negotiate, or we'll just stay stuck in fear and people pleasing and perpetuate that cycle. Yeah, so our actions come out of our feelings, right? Our thoughts and self-talk. So let's, listen to your self-talk. What might you be saying or thinking to yourself when you're doing more things out of, let's look at obligation. Okay. So let's examine our self-talk here. What might obligation say? Well, it'll say, I must, I should, I have to. I hate this. I don't enjoy this. I don't have any energy. My values don't matter. My priorities are not important. I'm afraid to speak up, so I'll keep quiet. I feel drained. So conversely, what might you be saying to yourself when you have ownership and energy in what you're doing? So ownership says it's totally different. It says, I want to. I love to. I can. I'm loving it. I'm energized. I could do this all day. My values matter. My priorities are important. I am assertive. I can communicate thoughtfully my needs. I feel energized. You see the big differences? So there you go. If you do more things out of obligation, you'll end up feeling more drained. If you do more things out of ownership, you'll feel more energized. What drains you and what's energizing in your life? Can you assess how close or far away you are from burnout? So how can you recover from burnout? So if you realize you're experiencing burnout now, well, don't leave it till you've reached breaking points. Here are 4 steps you could take now to begin your recovery. So number 1, take the time to be away from your normal activities, to rest and to unwind. Why? Because you need the space where you can feel free to think and to process without any pressures. Make sure your devices are turned off, so you're taking a screen break too, and not getting distracted. So distraction on devices will prevent us from totally unwinding. Okay, so number 2, then while you're on your break, you make time for sleep, you do things you enjoy, you make reflections and process. Take a pen and journal, I recommend. Perhaps talk honestly with your spouse or friend while on the break, and you take stock of your life. And here's a very practical thing to do. Make a list of what drains you and another list of things of what energizes you. So number 3, explore and reflect on these lists and ask yourself, why am I doing this thing? And what beliefs do I need to change here? Especially if you have a long list of obligations. So really examine, really process, really analyze. And number 4, prayerfully and thoughtfully make a plan towards moving into doing more energizing things and less draining things. You can start with small things you can change now and the bigger things to change later, because obviously you're not going to call your boss tomorrow and say, I quit, unless you've broken down, and that would be very sad, because you'll be forced to resign, won't you? Because you just cannot function at that point. Yeah. So doing 80% that's energizing and 20% that's draining, that's a manageable range. And we can all get there. If you've reached breaking point, you urgently need to make the changes now. See your GP to check up on your physical health. As a general rule, normally, so this is when you've gone through burnout, as a general rule, normally the lengths of years you slid into burnout, that's usually the same amount of time you need to take to recover. So if it was 2 years of burnout, it's 2 years to recover. But obviously...
You've got 20 years to break. See you around 50.
But this depends on the individual, though, and their unique situation. So you have to self-monitor, self-assess. Be wise. But here's the main thing. Be kind. Be gentle on yourself. And help your loved ones to understand what's going on with you so they can better support you. Use wisdom and listen to sound advice. Be practical as well. Yeah, and here's the main thing. Perhaps God will use burnout for you to turn your life around. So you can better align your life with the life that He has for you, with your potential, and so it'll flourish more. So good does come out, right, of our trials and our challenges. And so remember, the Lord is our shepherd. And not only will He take care of you, He takes care of His sheep. He takes care of every single one of us. In Psalm 23, which is, I'll leave with you. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. And we all need that refreshing from burnout. Yeah, so that's it, really. Very briefly. And so I've just got these questions for you guys. So like, number 1, explain what burnout is to others. Can you explain what burnout is from this talk? Maybe you've obviously heard of burnout before. And number 2, can you explain what obligation and ownership means to you? What does it really mean to you? And 3, how can you trust God to be your shepherd if you were to burn out, you're on the way to burn out? How can you trust Him more? Yeah. So that's it, guys. Any questions?
The 80%, 20% thing, is that like outside of work? You're aiming to do 80% things that energize you and 20% things that drain you? Or
I think it's talking about your whole life.
Your whole life.
Does work drain you?
Is it time?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Is it time?
Yes, it is the time.
How do you get 80?
You work like...
We do 80-20. We have 80-20.
When you get older, you should aim for 100%.
That's true,
Enjoy
that's true.
doing.
That's true. If you're
So
80,
as you mature,
yeah.
you want everything that you do is something that you like and you enjoy.
True.
Yeah. So
It's really tied closely to who you are, as knowing who you are. And as you discover more of that, you get more confident and comfortable in who you are, then of course the things you do will change. Your priorities will change, your values shift. You do different things. Like us. Yeah. Well, you see, that would be okay if he had 80% energizing things, and that was fitted into the 20. But if he was like doing
I think
20%,
for a season, no, it wasn't 80%.
yeah,
That was a season, no. Maybe I want to share something that we talked about like years ago when we used to live down the road on the other side of Grace Church Drive. Brianna used to hang out with a girl next door. They used to play together, but I think after a few weeks, that girl's mom said, "No, you're not allowed to play. You're not allowed to play with Brianna." And then later on, we found out that we said, "Hey, look, Brianna, do you know why? You know why?" I think she said, "My parents are too free and too lenient, so please don't learn that from Brianna. Don't play with her. Don't play with her." Yeah.
Wait, as in like the neighbor's parents are too free? Or
no,
you
they
guys?
said we were,
Oh.
because they're very,
The
very,
mom
they're
said no,
Chinese.
right?
But the context then is obviously they were the culture and their upbringing
It's
and
a lot to do with it.
anyway. So what happened to her was she became very super rebellious.
Went
Like she ran,
completely the other way.
she left home and she
Yep.
got with a
She got
boyfriend and
tattoos
and
boyfriends,
full on
lived away from home when she was-
rebellion.
I think 17 or 18, she just like, I have enough of this. I'm gone. Now, in this context, it's obligation on do's and don'ts. Like all my life, I was told to do this, I was told to do that. I hate it. When I become a little bit more independent, I'm gone.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
she went completely the other way. And then
She's very, very poor mental health. Really poor mental health.
she
Yeah.
lived a very miserable life. Yeah.
Yeah. And lots of kids are in that
Yeah.
situation. It all starts in the home, honestly. It all starts in the home. Yeah. Yeah.
So the 80-20, is it to do with time?
You're so fixated. Don't get fixated, guys. 80-20. Maybe you're like a 50-50 now. It's okay. You can come down. It's you know what? It's whatever you feel happy at. Like this brings me life.
Yeah.
Like you know, if you have so much life doing something and you don't mind doing that 10 or 20%, because that's also part of life too. You know, obligation. We have certain obligations. Right? So you just got to accept that. But it's only when your obligations really, really push on who you are, right? You feel like, I mean, there was a guy, this story, his parents wanted to be a doctor. But he hated being a doctor. But he only realised at 50 that he hated being a doctor, that he lived his whole life for his parents. He was super depressed, so much bad mental health. Yeah.
Yeah.
And isn't that sad that he comes
So
to only
resentful. That guy's
realise,
so resentful.
Yeah.
only he came to realise at that age, and by that time half your life is gone.
That's so.
So you don't want to do that. So Raj, are you particularly concerned about that, the 80-20?
No, just trying to understand.
Yeah, oh right. It's not a rule, it's just what are you at peace about, you know?
It's cool.
It's about, actually, you know, for life, it's achieving balance, isn't it? It is about achieving balance, because if you notice anything in your life that's out of balance, that's too extreme, you will get sick,
Yeah.
right? You just get sick. And what does the Lord say in Proverbs? He hates, he likes balanced scales. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So any more questions before we go into our groups and discuss this? How about we just girls get together and guys?
Nice.
Is that cool?
Can we have this one?
Sorry?
Can we have this one?
Yeah. They want.
Oh yeah. Okay. I shall sacrifice my armchair. That's pretty toasty and warm.